Reaser. Thank you, Jamie. It's an honor and a joy to have you here with us today. It's a long way and over a mountain to be here.
Great county, long way.
A well-seasoned traveler here.
Dominican Republic, and Kingston, Ontario, Canada. Welcome, connection there. So the first couple of poems I'm going to read are from a collection that was just published a couple of weeks ago. It's called Conversations with Mary. Each of these poems is inspired by a word, a phrase, maybe a titling of one of Mary Oliver's poems. So they're a conversation between one of her poems and one of my poems. And again, a little shameless endorsement. This collection will feature in a poetry reading that I'm doing October 20th. That's a Sunday, up at Lydia Mountain Lodge in Greene County, which is a gorgeous location overlooking the South River Valley. End of October should just be fabulous up there. So I'll make sure to circulate that or friend me on Facebook, and I'll put you on the list. So all of my work is at the interface of nature and human nature, using nature as conversant and mirror and inspirator for our personal explorations. And part of that is about attention and devotion, which is the subtitle of this collection. And many of them are inspired by my life on my farm in the Blue Ridge Mountains. This one's called The Encounter. I heard it at my front door. The front door. This great scream. It was, in fact, a scream, and it begged me to come running on a large shoed foot of wonderment and another of fear, striding one after the other. What could it be? This thing that screams at my front door. And there he was. I had asked for him only days before. And there he was. I grabbed my camera and headed after him. Slowly, but fast too. He looked back, making sure I was there, and sauntered. He sauntered down the driveway, away from the cabin. No, he loped. He loped down the driveway, picking up his big, magnificent paws and letting me count the pads below and memorize their shape and their position so that I'd know his signature anywhere. In the mud, maybe, or snow, by the creek, I'm sure. And there it was. And there we were. And then he leapt to the right, bounding the thick greenbrier, and up the mountain slope he was gone. He didn't ask permission to leave. He didn't even gesture goodbye. It was informal. The wild isn't polite. No one ever told it to be, and it wouldn't be anyway. But there he had been. And there we had been, together. Long enough to know the existence of each other, long enough to be able to say we had an encounter. How would he describe it? Long enough for me to feel blessed and him to feel whatever he felt. I could claim that my prayer was answered. I certainly couldn't deny it. I had so wanted to see a bobcat. This one's called A Snake in the Hand. My parents decapitated every snake they saw. I remember watching severed heads and severed bodies writhing separately in the grass. The mouth would open and close, open and close. It was pink inside, maybe black. When I was old enough to read field guides, my parents got in trouble. Big trouble. According to the books, there were no venomous snakes where we lived. None. Every single species was harmless. Actually, they did good things. I was not happy. I laid down the law. You are not allowed to kill any more snakes. My declaration was non-negotiable and backed by facts. Plenty. That was the day I learned to stop trusting everything adults said and did. The next snake that I encountered was a garter snake, a large female. I reached down and picked her up, gently placing the fingers of my right hand behind her narrow head and supporting her sleek body with my left hand, just as the books said to do. Then I went to find my parents. I was told it was not coming into the house, ever. But I was given a playpen-sized box that an appliance had arrived in earlier that week. The snake and I spent most of the day on the back patio in the box with grass that I pulled and worms that I caught. She ate a big one. It was still wriggling when it disappeared into the universe inside her. I learned a lot about snakes that day, like how easy they are to love. I let her go. And the next day I went down to the brook that ran patiently behind the house, Harrison Brook, where I knew northern water snakes lived in holes at the top of clay banks. I waded in waist deep, causing water to separate my left hip and embrace me before flowing onward, and waited for them to swim by, going to or from their streamside apartments. When they came my way swimming, I put my hands in the water under them, their long undulating bellies, and gently lift them up. Then I would get bitten. It never hurt much, but it did draw blood, sometimes. I did this again and again until they trusted my particular touch. Then I'd sit one or two on the sandy shoal at the turn of the creek and just look at them and talk to them. I think they said things to me too, but I don't remember what exactly. All demons can be befriended this way. All demons can be befriended this way. The snake in my hand right now is a lovely ringnet. She's still gray with golden belly and collar. She's silky smooth and elegant, looped around my thumb and forefinger. I relate to scales much the same way that religious people relate to beads. Holding her is an act of prayer. But what is the prayer? This is my question. I think it's a good one. I think perhaps I'm still praying for those decapitated snakes. Or maybe I'm praying for people. Decades have passed. I'm still clear about what is harmless, but it seems much the world is not. So I'm hoping I have time for two more, do I? Okay. Or I might have time for one. This is actually a prose poem, and this one is in this collection, but it's also going to be in a collection of essays and prose poems that will be out in December called Ridgelines, A View of Nature and Human Nature. And this one's called White Pines, and it's a prose poem. My little cabin is in what they call a holler. Here the sun is slower to arrive than on the ridges. I prefer to meet it there rather than wait on the world's turning. Greeting the day is ritual. No, it's more than that. It's ceremony. The trees know this too, and I think also all those shrubs beneath them and the vines that use them to reach up to the heavens, like me, climbing these mountains. Often the deer watch me, branches as masks. Today it was a young white pine the doe chose. She didn't know that I knew the fawn beside her was there, low in the stream bed, but I did. They walked on together and I alone. What do I make of the rabbits in the grassy meadows? How there are so many, so complacent. Isn't this fox certainty coyote certainty, wonderful in a way that teaches gratitude for clover and love of a moment. Back to the white pine. There aren't many here, not tall, not dense. Mostly they are young and spindly. It's like the artist had forgotten them and then suddenly said, oh, pines. there must be pines. Then he, or she, fit them into the remaining spaces because they are deserving. 5 long needles each, that's how I know they are white pines. Of course, there's also the moments of buying them, white pines. For the dozen Christmases, we were something called a family. Once, well, more than once, I sat with glorious children on a faraway mountain watching the sunset and the stars arrive, confident and twinkling. We counted them in 3 languages and sang songs that these same stars had taught their ancestors out of necessity. I don't remember the words, but I remember the laughter and how the night sky was caught up in their eyes. They didn't know darkness like I know darkness. I prayed they never would. A walk isn't finished until the walker has acknowledged at least one great vulnerability and discovers something to be grateful for. I'm not talking about the pines. I'm saying that maybe we should be more like artists, rabbits, and our ancestors' children. I'm just going to do one out of, this is Coming Home. This is the predecessor to Conversations with Mary. It's Coming Home, learning to actively love this world. And I'm just going to end with one out of this. It's called The Seed. I am the embryo of the seed. Let me call this in which I implanted my mother's womb. Here I am held. Here I am nourished. Here I am the possible human. My umbilical cord is my root structure, anchoring me to ancestral knowledge and into the rich organic detritus of eroded lives and savory fecal matter. Everything that once was is a resource. Everything that once was is a resource. Everything. Rain, the joy and grief of the world, soaks and softens me. Without it, I become hardened and I have no hope of intimacy with the light. I must be cracked open to grow. These are the structures through which my soul can reach, extending itself simultaneously, longing to receive and lamenting the ephemeral nature of my gifts. I show up because it's how I pray. I unfurl because it's how I answer prayers. I grow branches and leaves so that we may have a place to meet. I can bear flowers and fruit, delicate, fragrant, and aphrodisiac sweet, but not without having known relationship. This is a place of co-creation. Only the lonely believe in the solitary forces and adversarial stance of their own midday shadow. So you see, these seeds of myself that I place in your hands. This is my way of saying, I believe in you. And I'm asking you